I've always been fascinated with the moon, as I feel like so many do and are. It's one of the few things that is always around, at least on a routine-ish basis, and its beauty stops me in my tracks so often that I just have to stop and say, oh my god, look at the moon. Friends of mine do it, whether witchy inclined or not. Family members do it, whether witchy inclined or not. We all seem somewhat captivated by this beautiful thing in the sky. And moon water and energy is one of my favorite things to work with. And one of my favorite ways is to take some moon water and use it in my art. And so I had to wondering about moon worship. The adoration of the moon, a deity of the moon, or personification of a symbol of the moon has been connected with so many cultures. So much worship of that moon has gone all the way back for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And its cyclicalness, its ability to show us change, that things can go dark and then become light once again, that there's a rhythm to life, is something that always seems to just captivate our attentions. And it seems even more mystical when it does cross paths with things like the sun. It becomes red upon certain eclipses or blacks out entirely. I find it extremely interesting, the mythology of the moon, especially with the lunar cycle and eclipses. From the Britannica Online, it says that both lunar cycle and the eclipse, a new moon, were usually interpreted as the battle between some monster who devours or slays the moon and subsequently regurgitates or revives it. It is seen as maybe a taboo period against beginnings anything new or creative. In some areas, people even would do loud noises as part of a ritual activity back in the day, designed to scare off the moon's assailant. In primitive hunting cultures, it is frequently regarded as male as a god, and particularly in regards to women, is understood as primitively evil or possible dangerous figure. More agricultural traditions, the moon is regarded as female and benevolent ruler of cycle vegetation process. But there are so many variations upon this that even these two categories seem so restrictive to something that is so bountiful and has so many multitudes. One particular being that has always fascinated me and is something that shows the actual ancientness of such respect for the moon is the Chinese autumn festival and the moon goddess, especially her association with a bunny. Ancient Chinese emperors worshipped the harvest moon in autumn as they believed that the practice would bring them plentiful harvest in the following year. The custom of offering sacrifices to the moon originated from worshipping the moon goddess, and it was recorded that the kings offered sacrifices to the moon in the fall of the Western Zhou dynasty, 1045 to 770 BC. The term mid-autumn first appeared in the Book of Rites of Zhou, written in the Warring States period. But at the time, the term was only related to the time in the season. The festival didn't exist at that point. It became popular in the Tang dynasty. Following the emperor, rich merchants and officials began to hold big parties in their courts. They drank and appreciated the bright moon. Music and dances were also indispensable, and common citizens just prayed to the moon for a good harvest. The tradition of eating moon cakes during the festival in the Yuan dynasty, a dynasty ruled by the Mongols, messages to rebel against the Mongols were passed around in moon cakes. But I remember once when a friend of mine pointed out the rabbit in the moon with the craters. And I have to say that ever since then, I can't help but look up and see and almost try to pose as the rabbit does. Every time I look up at the sky and the full moon is there. The moon rabbit or moon hare is a mythical figure in East Asia and indigenous American folklore, based upon pareidolia interpretations that identify dark markings on the near side of the moon as a rabbit or hare. The jade rabbit, also called the moon rabbit, is a rabbit that lives on the moon. In Chinese folklore, is often portrayed as a companion of the moon goddess, constantly pounding the elixir of life for her. However, in Japanese or Korean versions of the story, it's just pounding mochi. And it's so interesting to me to look into the varieties of so many different deities that are associated with the moon. In African culture, there's Abuk, Emesemi, Gleti, Mawa, Ia, Khonshu, and forgive me for any of these pronunciations. Thoth. Aztecs had several associated with, as did the Kahuli, the Hopi, the Inca, Mamakila, Ka'atakila. The Inuit had Igaluk, Tarquip Inua, Changi from Chinese mythology. Tu Erye is the rabbit god. Again, I apologize once again for my pronunciations. In Hinduism, there's the god Agni, Chandra, Krishna, Seldari. In Japanese, it's Tsukuyomi. Mari is god Toz. The Philippine mythology seemed to have so many different ones that I was almost lost. And then, of course, our Narad, Welsh mythology, Artemis from the Greeks. Diana, Roman. Hecate. Yujuk, Yuki and Bil, Norse. Yaragi, Basque. Ku, Finnish. Luna, from Rome. Mani, another Norse god. Even all the way connecting to the triple goddess, centered in Wicca mostly. But with all these multitudes and stories when it comes to the moon, all that reminds me is how powerful it is truly with all of its energy. And it's something I focus on as I make this moon talisman, to embody the cycles and all of its abundance. And I hope you do the same.